Hello everyone, I'm really excited about this video because we are diving into another episode of Back to Real Art series. I just want to share how pumped I am for this episode because this is where we step away from AI stuff and get back to the roots. Just hands-on creative work done by hand. And just a heads up, this design is going to have a lot of details and it's going to be a bit complicated. So I'll need your full focus. We're going to talk about how to handle shadows, lighting, colors, saturation, perspective, and even how to handle low light situations, which is one of the trickiest parts in art. So without any further ado, let's dig into business. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Noor and this is NourArt channel. Alright, so in today's video are going to be a very long episode, so stay focused, and to follow along with me, I'll leave all the stock images I'm using into the link in the description. All the brushes, the stock images, everything. You are welcome. Alright, so in today's visual, I wanted to practice the low light situations. You know, this is one of the hardest things to master because when you want to make something in low light or at night, you start by creating very dark designs like this, which doesn't leave a room into the shadows to breathe or for us to see what is inside the shadows. But I'll show you how to master coloring this situation, and the trick is not about the light itself, it's about the coloring, and we will see this with each other. So let's start by creating a new project. This will be like a 4K project, 4000 by 2022 50p, and the color bit I'm going to make it 16-bit and press create. The first thing I want to make is to create like a solid color with kinda dark gray color because I don't want my eye to be irritated with the contrast between the white and the dark colors we are going to make. So I just want to make it complete dark canvas. And let's start by the sky. This is the main element and this is the main source of light. And I choose this dramatic sky because I want to have details into the shadows and I want it to be, you know, dramatic. So let's make it bigger, press enter, and let's press Ctrl G to put it into a group, and let's name this sky. Let's start by darkening the bright pixels into the sky. Don't forget to create a clipping mask, and let's make it dark like this, not so dark. And let's go to color balance to create the coloring. And here all the magic happens. When you are creating low light night designs, you need to think about the coloring of the overall coloring of the design, because this is the main thing that shifts the mood from day to night. It's coloring. So let me just go to Pinterest and show you some references, and this is a very relevant reference for our design. Let me just copy this image and put it inside Photoshop. Press Ctrl T and make it big. And yeah, let's just analyze what we are seeing here. If you look at the sky, its major color is blue and dark shades of blue and bright parts into the reflections of the moonlight. And here into the grass, it's going to be cyanish blue. This is a really good trick I like to do whenever I'm looking for a reference or something. You know, the colors is shifting from green here to kind of blue here. The further you go in distance, the more blue color you will see into the far elements. And this is the main thing. Okay, so we will leave this for our reference, and let's start putting blue color into the sky. I'm going to shift the colors from the color balance, adding some cyan and some blue into the midtones, maybe some magenta. Let's go to the highlights, do the same thing. It depends on your taste, how you want the final look to be. Let's go to the shadows, maybe add blue and bunch of sand. This is too much actually, so let's try adding some greens. Yeah, adding greens to the blues make it kinda brighter. This is nice. Before and after, before and after. Let's go to the next element, which is the midground. You know, when you are doing any photo manipulation composite, you should have three main segments into your design: the background, the midground, which is having most of the time the focal point, and the foreground, which are the elements that are framing the composition. So let's put the midground, which should be this road and this road and the trees. So I'll just pick this one, put it into Photoshop. Let's make it bigger. Let's put it right here. And let's select the sky. I'm going to do this by going to select and sky, and then press Alt and press into the mask to create a mask. And you will notice some white edges right here. If you press into the Alt and press into the mask, you will find that the selection is not sharp. So how can we fix this? Is by simply going to the brushes, making the brush smaller. Let's use the soft rounded brush, and changing the brush blending mode into overlay. By doing so, I'm going to push the grays of these grays. I'm going to push them towards blacks, and the whites into more of whites to define the selection more. Okay, so let's bring the brush, and you should make sure that you are selecting the mask itself, not the layer, and using the blacks with a low flow of the brush. I'm going to paint over these edges. As you can see right now, this makes the edges more contrasty, but don't overdo it, because we don't want to make the edges look jaggy. Okay, just enough to remove the white edges. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, this is perfect. Now let's press Ctrl T and let's frame it right here. I guess this is a good position. Maybe we are still having some white edges right here, so using the same technique, I'm going to erase it. Just using the same brush with the same blending option overlay to erase the white edges. That's next. We're going to fill this area with some midground grass. So I'm going to pick this one, and let's just press Alt and Shift to squeeze it like this. Just want to put it right here, and I don't want anything from this image other than the grass part. So let's just use the mask and change the blending mode of the brush again to the normal and the flow to 100%. Next, we're going to fill this area with some midground grass. So I'm going to pick this one, and let's just press Alt and Shift to squeeze it like this. Just want to put it right here, and I don't want anything from this image other than the grass part. So let's just use the mask and change the blending mode of the brush again to the normal and the flow to 100%. And let's, with the black color, let's erase all these parts. I don't want them. Maybe this as well. And for these areas, maybe we can use a grass brush to just fade or to just enhance the edges. So from the brush back I am leaving into the comments, you will find something called grass brush. So maybe this is nice, and let's change some of its aspects. I guess this is cool enough. We don't want to change anything. Just make it smaller, and using the white brush, I am going to just put some grass right here. Increase the flow and put some grass like this. Subtle touch. That's very nice. I guess we need to use another road other than this. So I'm just throwing out the images right now, and I will blend them later. I just want to make sure that I'm having a cohesive composite at first. Okay, so let's bring this part, and I'll use this road. So let's just make it like this. Perfect. What I only need from this image is just the pathway. So let's create a mask, and using the solid rounded brush, I'm just going to erase all of that. That is good. So I want to blend everything right here to make like a seamless road with this grass. So I'll start by this area using the same grass brush. I'm going to paint over this area and repaint again. So maybe we can use the solid rounded brush to erase it. Yeah, and then repaint it again. So let's erase. These parts like this, and then use the grass brush to repaint these edges carefully. Yeah, that's nice. And after blending the colors and the lights, this should be seamless. So something like this is good. Yeah, we'll do the same thing here and here as well. Maybe this part should be faded using the soft rounded brush. So let's fade this part out. Yeah. And this is nice. Let's decrease the flow of the brush and let's try to fade it more. Perfect. Now let's fade the edges into the left. So for this, I'm going to use the same grass brush again to fade this edge. So let's print some edges right here. Let's see here as well. Never mind about the colors and the lightness, because we will blend them later. Now caring about the edges, because this is a really major thing. Okay, maybe you can decrease the flow of the brush and try to blend it like this. Like I'm trying to make it like a gradient, you know, between the main image and the image that I'm blending the grass with. Okay, so it should be like gradually getting inside. Can you see that? This is what I'm talking about. I guess maybe we can put this above the road, yeah, so that we can paint some grass right here. Let's increase the flow of the brush. Yeah, because these parts should be in focus, and the road image was having like a shallow depth of field, so this is better. So zoom in a bit. Yeah, now we're talking. Can you see that? Decrease the brush size and decrease the flow as well, and let's blend it like this. Now they are blended seamlessly. Really nice. Let's select all these images, press Ctrl T, and maybe we can make this a bit bigger, so something like this. Really nice. Now let's care about blending everything here with the sky. So let's put them into the group and let's name this mid-ground. I'm going to start with the main image, which is this one. And it's really important for you to notice the coloring and the saturation of each image alone. So if I ask you this image, what do you see on it? You should see that this has a lot of yellow and it has a very high saturation and it is very bright. Okay, so this analysis is really important because upon which you are going to blend the other elements with. So if I asked you about this image, what can you see? You should notice that the greens are not high saturation, the yellows doesn't have a lot of saturation, and the overall image is kinda not contrasty. The shadows are not very dark, the brights are not very bright, okay? Let's see this one. This one has good amount of contrast. You can notice the shadows right here are dark, the brights are kind of bright, and the saturation is good. So depending on this analysis, we're going to fix everything to match each other, okay? We're trying to put them all into the 0 point. So let's start with this one. I'm going to start by decreasing its contrast because its contrast is high, as we have mentioned. So let's create curves adjustment layer and let's make it dark. And at the same time, let's open up the shadows a bit. This is how we are decreasing the contrast. So something like this is good. And its coloring, its saturation, I guess, is cool. So let's leave it as is. We will not play around with the saturation. Just making it dark. And that's it. Really nice. Now let's care about the coloring, which I am going to use the color balance. So let's create a clipping mask and let's add some cyan, some blue. Now we are talking. What about magenta? No, this is too much. Let's go to the highlights. Add some cyans as well and some blues. Maybe some this is tricky, so a touch of green maybe. And let's go to the shadows and add cyan. Now we are talking. Some yellows, no, it's some blues, and maybe subtle touch of green. So here's before, here's after, before and after. So this is the base coloring. We are going to make like local dark parts, but for now we're going to blend the other images with this values. So let's start by this. We are having some parts that needs to be masked. So this one and this part. Very nice. So let's do the same process. Curves, create a clipping mask, and let's darken this until it matches our main image. So something like this. And then we can create color balance. And let's fix the colors. Add a bunch of cyans, some blues. Let's go to the shadows, cyan, blue. Basically, we're trying to match the two images. That's it. And for the highlights, let's do the same thing. I guess this is having a lot of blues, so let's decrease the blue by adding some yellows. Yeah, this is better. So yeah, here's before, here's after. It's now blended seamlessly. Maybe it should have some contrast. Perfect. Now let's get to the final one, this one, and this needs some work. So let's start by the curves. I always start by the curves because this is the easiest thing to fix. Let's start by the curves. Let's darken it a lot, something like this. And let's go to the color balance and fix it. I'm going to create a clipping mask and going to add a bunch of cyan and bunch of blue. Now we are talking. Can you see that? It is now blended in a better way. Let's go to the highlights, do the same thing. And what about the shadows? So yeah, I guess for this one we need to use the hue saturation because the saturation with these greens is really high. So let's bring the hue saturation and let's just decrease. Let's use this button and decrease the saturation like this. Of course, we are going to put this behind the color balance, and let's decrease the greens. Oops, I guess we should go to the yellows. Trying to not see the difference between the two layers. Okay, let's zoom out. This is good, but we need to fix some colors. So in the mid-tones or the highlights, we should decrease the blues like this. And let's go to the mid-tones as well. There are a lot of blue. So let's just make it like this. And let's get back to the curves, make it darker. I guess this is nice. Yeah, perfect. So let's see, here is before and here is after. Now we are talking, everything is blended seamlessly and we are going to put the other elements. But first we need to put like fog or atmosphere effect because we want to add depth in this foggy, mysterious design. So we're going to do this using a solid color, and let's choose some desaturated, dark, muted blue. So something like this. And let's press Ctrl I. And using a fog brush from the brush pack, I like this one. I'm going to paint some, this is very desaturated. So let's just pick a color from the sky. And let's decrease its saturation. So something like this. Very nice. And let's just put some hazing fog effects here and there. Yeah, now we're talking. I don't know why I like these depressive atmospheres. I think I'm not the only one. Let me know in the comments, guys. Maybe we can decrease its opacity. Yeah. Now we're talking. We can edit it later if we don't like it. Before we go to the next point, I want to tell you that my course, the Advertising Design Using Photo Manipulation course, is now released and you will find it in the link in the description. In this course, we focused on learning the fundamentals of photo manipulation with a lot of practical examples. The course started with Introduction to Marketing because you need to understand the big picture, the whole idea why you are doing all of that, because in some way you are doing some marketing materials. You're making a movie poster to sell the movie to the audience. You are making like a flyer. You are making like a social media design. You are making a key visual for a billboard marketing campaign. Any photo manipulation design is located under the umbrella of marketing. So you should understand the basics of marketing. You should understand the basics of branding because you should be able to apply the branding character into the design itself. You should understand what is visual communication, how to communicate a message through a picture. And then you should understand how to get the brief from the client and what are the different elements that are inside the brief itself. What are the target audience? What are the marketing objectives? What are the USPs or the unique selling points? Terms that is found into the brief, and you should understand what is this. And then we went to the graphic design principles. What is balance, alignment, hierarchy, contrast, repetition, proximity, color, and typography, which are very fundamental and basic principles that you should understand to apply them into your visuals. And finally, we went to the execution stage, brainstorming how to put the ideas and how to find proper images, and then went to the photo manipulation principles, like what is composition, the composition structures, the selecting the complex images like glass, smoke, etc., how to match perspective, how to paint light and shadow, how to understand the color itself, what is RGB coloring, what is the curves, selective color, all this stuff. And finally went to practical applications, which are 13 fully explained applications into the course. And finally, using the AI tools to make your life easier and to increase the efficiency of your work. And the final thing is how to put all of these designs into a presentation that sells your effort, not just the final output. The link of the course is in the description, and let's get back to the video. Okay, so let's get to the next element, which is going to be the car. And for this, we're having this car. Let's put it right here, right click, flip horizontal, and press enter. We are going to select it using the select object tool. So let's just select the car like this. Maybe there are some parts that we should remove the selection from. So just press shift and select this area. It's nice. This also. Maybe we can use the object selection tool. Yeah. And let's select everything here. And this part. Really nice. We'll need this shadow. So let's just create a mask and press Ctrl T and make it smaller. I'm going to put it right here. This is the main focal point. Okay, so let's try to match the perspective of this car to the perspective and the horizon line of the background. So the horizon line of the image that took this picture can be detected by just drawing long lines from the intersection points of the parallel lines. So this line of the car, this one also is parallel to this one. So this is the intersection point here, and the horizon line should be a line that is horizontal and it's passing through this vanishing point. This is kind of tricky part, but if you don't know how to match perspective or don't understand what is perspective, I'll leave a video in the description that will teach you how to match perspective and horizon lines. So we're basically trying to match this point or this line with the horizon line of the background, which is this line, the intersection between the sky and the ground. Okay, so just try to match it like this, and let's put it right here. And now the car perspective should be good. Let's see. Yeah, maybe we can just rotate it a bit or move it a little bit to the right or to the left, but it's mostly blended. Very nice. Now let's care about correcting its colors and brightness. Let's start by darkening it. Let's just delete all these layers, and let's start by creating a curves adjustment layer. And let's make it very dark. Something like this. And let's open up the shadows a little bit. And let's use the color balance to match its colors. Add cyans, blues. This is too much. Let's go to the highlights. Do the same thing. This is also too much. Let's add some greens. And let's go to the shadows and try to blend it nicely. Not bad. You will notice me trying to zoom in and zoom out all the time because I want to see the full, the big picture, you know. So we're having in the shadows, we're having a lot of blues. So let's just add more cyan and some greens. Maybe decrease the blues. So something like this is not bad. Maybe we should make it darker, because this area should, the overall area right here should be very dark. So this is good. And to blend it better, I want to darken this area, because the rule is the further you go in distance, the less contrasty and the brighter the elements should. So let's adjust the brightness by creating a curves adjustment layer and darken everything right here. And let's press Ctrl I, and using the soft rounded brush, I'm going to darken the close areas. So I'm going to make these. Okay, and let's change its blending mode into luminosity, because I don't want to mess around with the colors. Okay, so to blend it more and to see how it can look, we should have a shadow. So let's create the shadow by the existing layer. I'll just duplicate the core layer and press shift into the bottom layer to just reveal the layer, the original one here. I'm just creating like a duplicate from it. And now let's change its blending mode into multiply. And by doing so, just leaving only the dark pixels into the bottom image, in which we should have the shadows. Okay, so let's just remove some dark pixels from here. I'm going to do this by creating a mask. So using the soft rounded brush, I'm just going to fade the edges. Let's increase the flow. We're now having a shadow, but it is very dark. We should play around with its color. But it is accurate because it's the main shadow of the layer. So we will change its color by pressing Ctrl U to bring the hue saturation, and press colorize. And from here we can make it brighter to see its color, something like this. And let's give it some bluish cyanish color, maybe increase the saturation to see. And let's play around with this, so something like this. I don't want it to be very dark, so something like this is cool. Press OK. And maybe we can darken these parts by creating another curves adjustment layer to blend it in a better way. And then press Ctrl I, and using the mask soft rounded brush, I'm going to paint some shadows right here. And now it's blended in a better way. I'm feeling the shadows has a lot of blues, so let's go to the shadows from here. And as I've already told you, this is a not one-time process. You should have a lot of back and forth until you're satisfied with your image. Okay, that's very nice. Next, we should darken this glass, because it doesn't look good while it's bright. So let's just remove these to make a better selection. So I'm going to select it using the polygonal lasso tool. just like this. Press shift and add this to the selection. That's very nice. After creating a selection, let's create curves adjustment layer and let's make this very dark. Something like this is cool. Maybe we can feather the edges a little bit, just a tiny touch of feathering. So let's go to the properties and into the mask. I'm going to feather the edges. That's cool. I'm feeling the sky needs to be darker to fit the mode. So let's make it dark. Yeah, now we're talking. Very nice. Now let's bring the next element, which should be the ghost. And for this, I'm going to use this girl. This is very spooky. So let's bring it into a new project and let's select it. I'm going to select it using the color range. So let's select this and let's increase the fuzziness because we want to select only the green pixels. Press OK. And let's create a mask. Oops, let's press Alt and create a mask. And very nice. You will notice that there are some parts into the mask that are selected, which we don't want. So let's just use the soft rounded brush, and with the same technique we used with the trees, I'm going to change the blending mode of the brush into overlay, and with the white color, I'm just going to paint over here. Let's decrease the opacity, or let's increase it actually. And I'm just drawing here because I only want to select the girl. I don't want some transparency over these areas, but I want some transparency here, which is nice into her dress. So maybe we can leave some transparency right here. Let's decrease the flow and let's just leave this like this. And bringing the black, I'm just going to select these parts. It's nice. Let's go to the image, and that is perfect. Let's bring it to our project. Yes. And let's put it above everything. Let's put it into a group, and let's name it Ghost. And press Ctrl T. Let's put it into its position, so something around here. It's nice. And let's use the soft rounded brush to erase her legs. Change the blending mode of the brush into normal, back again, and using the black, I'm going to fade these edges. So let's blend it using the curves at first. Let's make it dark, something like this, and then we will add some glow effects. But firstly, let's blend its brightness with the overall mode. And let's go to the color balance, add a bunch of cyans, some blues, some greens. Go to the highlights, do the same thing. Now this is good. I like how her face is dark. We can see it. But I don't like how this is fading out, so using the soft rounded brush, I'm going to reveal some parts again. We will care about the lighting and all the special effects later, but for now, let's bring some foreground elements to frame our composition. So I'm going to bring this and this image. Let's just drag both of them into Photoshop, and let's select them using the same technique select, color range, selecting the whites, decrease the fuzziness because we want to select all the greens. Press OK, create a mask, and let's create solid color, black color, to check if there are some fringes or not. There's just a tiny pixel, so let's go to filter. While selecting the mask, go to filter, other minimum. This is going to push the edges like 1 or 2 pixels inside. This will remove the fringes. Very nice. And then right click and convert it into a smart object. And let's bring it into our composite. Press yes. Let's put it above everything. Let's name this, put this into a group, and let's name it foreground. Very nice. Let's just make it smaller, and it's perfect. And let's create curves, and let's make it dark. Create a clipping mask force. This is very dark. That's what I was talking about. You need to create dark environment without burning everything, because we want to have details into the shadows, you know. Create color balance and create a clipping mask. Let's go to the highlights, do the same thing. Maybe we can get back to the image, to the curves, and let's make it darker. And I guess it has a lot of blues, especially in the midtones, so let's remove some blues. And not bad. Very nice. Now let's go to the other image. So let's just close this and let's select this one. I'm going to select it using the same technique, color range, press into the white and press OK. Basically the same thing. So solid color, black, to check. This is a fringes check. Yeah. And right click, convert it into a smart object, and let's get it into our project. So let's put this, I'm going to put it right here or something. Let's just increase its size, make it smaller. I'm not sure. Let's press right click, flip horizontal, and see which part is better. I guess this one is better. Something like this, maybe. So let's create a mask, and I'm feeling like I don't want this part, so let's remove it using any, maybe trees or something. Yeah, there is these leaves brush, so let's just mask them, increase the flow of the brush, and using the dark color I'm going to mask these parts. Maybe I'm going to mask it using the solid rounded brush, and then I'm going to use the grass or the trees brush to repaint it. Let's shift the shape using the arrows, and let's just paint it like this. So let's make it dark using the curves as well. And at the same time, for this time, I guess we can use the hue saturation, maybe. Let's create hue saturation, because firstly I want to desaturate it a little bit, and then I'm going to shift the colors towards more cyanish colors. Yeah. Perfect. Now let's get back to the fog layer and try to paint some fog effects here and behind the ghost. So using the fog brush, I'm going to paint some fog effect, but let's decrease the flow of the brush. Let's see. And maybe we can decrease the size of the ghost. It's huge. And paint some fog effect behind it. That's not bad. And let's reveal some parts from its dress. This is not bad. Very nice. Now let's care about painting the light, the shadows, and the overall special effects. And for this, we are going to start with the car lights. I'm going to make it using curves adjustment layer. So let's create curves adjustment layer and let's make everything very bright. So something like this. And then we will press Ctrl-I to invert the mask. And using the brush, I'm going to paint its direction first. So the light should be somewhere from here to here. I'm just trying at first to define its orientation. First, let's put it behind the car. Yeah. So this is where the light should be, right? Let's focus. I'm trying to identify its path. This is a very important part, and then we can care about painting it realistically. It's very nice. And then we are going to fade it using the same soft rounded brush. And because it's a mask, we can fade it like this easily. So let's fade it like this. And for the edges, we will use the grass brush to paint into the edges. So let's use this grass brush. And let's remove the transfer and the dynamics, and let's just increase the flow. Let's paint over here. Yeah, now we are talking. I'm trying to give it texture, you know? Whenever I'm painting lights, you should try to give it the texture of the material that the light fall into, okay? So give it some depth by creating like light variation like this. Some areas are dark, some areas are bright. This is what makes it realistic. This is too much. Let's decrease the flow of the brush. And using maybe the graphics tablet, this is going to be much more effective. See, yeah, now we're talking. Maybe we can get the soft rounded brush back, and let's fade these parts. Let's see, maybe here we can put some soft lights. But here is the main tricky thing. Now to give it some color variation, we can create a new solid color adjustment layer, and this time it's going to be more of yellowish color representing the car light. And press Ctrl-I, and for this I'm not going to use the grass or something. Maybe let's try it. Let's try to add some color variation, you know. But mainly I want to use the fog brush to create a fog effect around the car, and for this I'm going to decrease the flow of the brush, and let's just paint some dusting fog effect around the lights, something like this. I don't like the color, its color, so we can shift it again. But let's firstly change its blending mode into screen and see. And we can shift the color more toward maybe the green. Something like this is better. Subtle yet effective, but of course we don't want to paint here, so let's just remove the lights from these parts. Maybe we can increase the effect here as if this is coming from the car light. Very nice. Now let's add another color that will add interest into our design, because obviously, as you can see, everything in this design is kind of blue, muted, cyanish colors, and I want to avoid this monocoloring effect, you know? So we will add like red colors from the car, and I'm going to do this using the curves, because curves is the best way to create lights with details into the color lights itself. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to increase the brightness like this and go to the reds, and let's add a bunch of reds. Let's go to the greens, add some magenta, and go to the blues and add some blues. Let's get back to the reds, and let's go to the RGB and let's open this out. So basically what I'm trying to do is to give like red colors into these car backlights. So maybe something like this. Press Ctrl I, and let's paint using the hard rounded brush. Just going to paint over this area. This is the first layer of the lighting. I've done it using curves because, as you can see right now, it gave me some texture into the light, not just some solid color effect, you know. So this is the first layer of the lighting. Secondly, I'm going to create a new solid color adjustment layer, and this time will be like somehow saturated red, and change its blending mode into screen maybe. Press Ctrl I to invert the mask. Of course, create a clipping mask. And let's paint over some areas, but be careful because we want to have like texture. So let's choose a textured brush. Something like this. I guess we should increase the saturation to match the red. Yeah, this is better. Let's just paint some reds over here, and this is going to be like the core of the light. Okay, and secondly, I'm going to duplicate this layer and press Ctrl I to invert the mask. And using the soft rounded brush, I'm going to make it bigger to create like a glow effect. Give it some touches, make it bigger, and well, something like this. This is nice. Maybe you can decrease the saturation of this. Before and after. Very nice. Now let's paint some reflected lights from this red light. We will start by duplicating the same glow layer and remove everything from the layer. Using the fog brush, I'm going to paint like some dusting, reflecting. It's just like the dust reflecting the car lights. And maybe we can decrease its opacity. That's very nice. Secondly, we are going to paint some lights using actually the same layer, some lights into the car itself. So let's bring the solid rounded brush and let's decrease the flow of the brush to like 4%, and let's paint some lights over some edges. So maybe here, this is too much. Let's make it 2 or 1%. So maybe here. Be careful about the intensity and the shape of the light. Increase the brush flow and let's paint it like this. And then remove it using the soft rounded brush maybe. Let's do the same thing right here. And then we can like decrease its opacity by just erasing it. So yeah, that is not bad. Next, we should give the ghost some glow effect or something. And for this, I'm going to use this fog layer. Let's make it smaller. And let's put it behind the ghost, change its blending mode into screen, and let's change its color. Press Ctrl U and colorize. Let's give it some cyan, greenish color, so something like this maybe. Press OK. And press Ctrl T to transform it using the warp. I'm going to warp it to be like it's centralized from the ghost itself. You got my point? So the smoke and the fog is coming from the ground and going towards the ghost. This is my idea. Press OK. And then using the mask, I'm going to erase some parts. But firstly, let's put this ghost behind the car. And then let's mask these areas. Of course, the effect should be subtle. So let's see, before, after, before, after. Yeah, very nice. Next, we should create like a glow effect around the subject, the ghost itself. So let's do this by creating solid color, and we would choose the same color, so something like this. Press Ctrl I, and let's change its blending mode into screen, and let's paint some lights around. Oops, this is too much. I'm just trying to put its shape. Let's decrease its saturation, so something like this, and the opacity as well. And maybe we can create another curves and create like a clipping mask, and
increase its brightness. Press Ctrl I and let's open some parts. Because it's very dark, it's not giving me the effect I wanted. Now it's better. It's not bad. Nice. Now let's paint some lights that are coming from the sky. I'm going to do this by maybe you can put a moon right here, or I don't know, I'm not sure about that. So let's put this moon right here. Let's put it above everything and change its blending mode into screen, make it smaller somewhere right here. And let's just create another curves adjustment layer around it to create like a glow effect around the moon. With a soft rounded brush, I'm just going to create a glow effect like this. I'm not sure if this is good or not. Maybe we can fade it out. So just a subtle one. And let's change the blending mode of these curves into luminosity. So some subtle moon effect over here. And then we should definitely paint some lights that is reflected from the moon. So let's start by the car. And I'll do this using the curves. Let's increase the brightness, create a clipping mask, and press Ctrl I to invert the mask. And let's select these areas. I guess that you got the point. I'm just going to select this part, and using the soft rounded brush, I'm going to paint like some light effect. I don't like the coloring because we should change the blending mode into luminosity. Yeah, this is better. And we can also paint some lights into here, these edges as well, or something like this. Yeah, this is making it pop more. Maybe we can paint some lights into the ghost. I'm not sure. Let's try it out. So using the curves, let's increase the brightness and change the blending mode into luminosity. And press Ctrl I, and using the soft rounded brush, I'm going to paint some lights. Of course, it's all artistic choices. I'm feeling good right now. Maybe we can put the final touches. So let's start by darkening the sky a bit. Let's go to the sky layer and let's create curves adjustment layer, making it dark. Press Ctrl I, and using the soft rounded brush, I'm going to fade the edges or darken it like this. Really nice. And next, I'm going to bring like birds, which is secondary element that add interest to the story and it give it some sense of size. So let's add some birds. I really like to add this effect. It's just adding some, you know, sense of size. This is so huge and the birds are flying around it. So let's just pick a dark color, something like this. And let's increase the flow of the brush. Add one touch. Press Ctrl T. And let's add it maybe here. Okay. Next we can create a new layer and press Alt Ctrl Shift E. Right click and convert it into a smart object. And let's go to filter and camera raw filter where all the magic happens. I will start by increasing the exposure because this is obviously very dark. And what about decreasing the contrast? And decrease the highlights, open up the shadows and increase the whites. maybe increase the blacks. And then let's play around with the white balance, maybe add some touch of blue. And this is very tricky. I guess I need a break before correcting the colors because my eye gets used to its colors, but it's okay. Let's try it out. Maybe we can decrease the vibrance. No, this is too much, just a touch. And let's increase the texture, clarity, and dehazing. And let's add some vignetting effect, increase its feathering. Yeah. To go to the curves, add some yellows to the highlights and maybe some reds, touch of red, and add some sharpening. And let's go to the color mixer, and here we should definitely decrease the saturation of the reds and its brightness as well, because it's really bright and really saturated. What about the greens? Let's decrease its saturation as well. And for the blues, maybe we can make it brighter. And let's go to calibration, tweak the colors a bit. And it's basically just tweaking all the sliders until you are satisfied or get the look you wanted. That's it. So here is the final result. Here is before, and here is after. Alright guys, this was a really long video, I know, but it has a lot of tricks. It's kinda tricky to get the mood into the low light situations, so practice it yourself. Let me know in the comments what is the hardest and the trickiest part you find in this tutorial, and let me know whether you want all these full videos of explaining everything in details or not. And as mentioned, my course, The Ultimate Guide to Photo Manipulation, is now released, and you'll find it in the link in the description. See you guys in next classes. Peace.